Daga ho. This is Michael Moriarty, Managing Director at Hong Kong Disneyland Resort, and I appreciate you taking time with us today. As you know, the impacts of the pandemic have been widespread and the travel industry has been especially hard hit. Inbound tourism to Hong Kong is essentially zero, and the city's tourism destinations, including our own, have been faced with yet another year of challenging business and operating environments. In fiscal 21, our theme park did not operate for 40% of the calendar days, due to the mandatory closures by the government and the business impact brought by the pandemic. And our resort hotels continue to run at adjusted operating levels. Despite these challenges, we have seen improvements in our business performance and our guest satisfaction. To do this, over the past year, we've adopted what we call our 3P strategy. Our first P focuses on propelling our business performance by maxing out opportunities that we do have in the absence of inbound tourism. The second P is preserving our workforce, cast wellness, and guest experience while preserving cash. The third P is to prepare for the return of inbound tourism by aiding the recovery and ensuring that we continue to have exciting new offerings for our local guests and inbound tourists. So now I'll go into some more details on these strategies and their effectiveness. In fiscal 21, our targeted products and strategies have led to record high local attendance, more than doubling our prior year figure, led by increases in young adult guests, also hitting an historic high. In total, our attendance increased to 2.8 million, up 64% to prior year. Our fan base has also grown by leaps and bounds. The Magic Access membership expanded by over 50% for the second year in a row, marking a new record high. Within this, our student Magic Access Pass has expanded, resulting in more Hong Kongers enjoying Hong Kong Disneyland than ever before. All these results are impossible without our amazing 5,000 full-time and 1,200 part-time cast. This is why it has been so important for us to preserve jobs and support our cast's well-being while managing our costs prudently. Same as fiscal 20, we did not lay off any staff. And I cannot stress enough the gratitude I have for our cast dedication and resilience during these challenging times. To ensure our resort can continue to operate in a safe and healthy environment, we established on-site testing and vaccination centers to facilitate the latest testing requirements and increase vaccinations. At the end of September, we had already achieved a 93% vaccination rate for our full-time cast members, above the city's average. Now, we are nearly 100% vaccinated for all of our cast members. With all these efforts made, our guests continued to give us outstanding ratings. In fiscal 21, 97% of our theme park guests surveyed felt that their park visit was carefree, and 94% shared that their overall experience was great. In fiscal 21, revenue grew by 19% to 1.7 billion while we continue to manage our costs prudently. Our cost mitigation efforts resulted in an 8% decrease in costs despite the additional volume, costs incurred on preventative healthcare measures, and no layoffs. This is in addition to the 41% year-on-year decrease in our costs in the prior year. With revenue up and costs down, EBITDA improved by 34% to negative 970 million. We also reduced our net loss to 2.4 billion, which is a 12% improvement compared with the prior year. And we have seen, as long as our park stays open, our results are encouraging. Our results in Q1 of this fiscal year is an example of that, when we enjoyed positive EBITDA. Over the last 16 years, the resort has brought approximately $115 billion of value added to the Hong Kong economy, equivalent to 0.29% of its GDP. We have cumulatively created over 274,000 jobs benefiting Hong Kong's overall economy, and we stay committed to maintaining a pivotal role in the community and in the development of Hong Kong as a top tourist destination in Asia. For the hotel side, After adjusting for available capacity, the resort's hotel utilization rate was 77% in 21. What's more, Hong Kong Disneyland Hotel has been ranked as the most searched hotel in Hong Kong in 2021, according to Google. During FY21, we brought back several of our exciting and fresh seasonal events, including Pixar's Water Play Street Party, Let's Get Wicked, and our extremely popular A Disney Christmas. Our wide range of merchandise and food and beverage offerings have been a favorite for birthday celebrations, romantic occasions, and guest-inspired co-creation. We have created online presence for both food and beverage and merchandise and other sales opportunities outside the resort. And our food and beverage team introduced our first ever Royal Food and Drink Fair. Throughout the year, we have developed multiple tailor-made promotions for our guests, including special staycation packages, flash sale hotel promotions, as well as the very popular double the fun ticket offers for park visits. We also worked closely with the Hong Kong Tourism Board and participated in the Staycation Delights and Holiday at Home campaigns to feature our promotions. Celebrating our 15th anniversary in the Castle of Magical Dreams was a key driver of our strong local performance this year. And Follow Your Dreams, a first of its kind live show in front of the castle, was launched last year, attracting local visitation. Now, the long-awaited all-new nighttime spectacular called Momentous will debut this year, bringing Disney stories and memorable moments to life against and above the Castle of Magical Dreams, and is sure to amaze our guests. Now, allow me to share a short video highlighting the transformation of the Castle of Magical Dreams together with the offerings that come with it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we invite you to join us for tonight's performance of Disney in the Stars.
Who would have thought that 15 years later we would be here today standing in front of our reimagined Castle of Magical Dreams? We look forward to the start of a new beginning. Thank you.
Our resort is committed to contributing to the community with a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want Hong Kong Disneyland to be a place where everyone is welcome to work and to play. And this year we've had a variety of diversity and inclusion initiatives. Our other community services include a video series produced by our own Disney volunteers, especially for young patients at the Hong Kong Children's Hospital. A new meal box donation program was introduced, providing over 12,000 healthy and freshly cooked meals for local families. With the fifth wave of the pandemic, we are launching all new and enhanced community initiatives. Disney is now working with government partners to expand the Penny's Bay Quarantine Center's uses and capabilities. We are providing free online children's playtime workshops and donating food and essential goods to more than 2,000 underrepresented families. To show our support to the medical staff, we worked with Health Authority on proposals to use the Disney's Explorers Lodge. And while they don't need us at this moment, we stand prepared to offer accommodation and operate safely for our cast and our guests. Now let's take a look at how Hong Kong Disneyland has supported the community over the past year.
其實頭先成個氣氛係非常之開心同興奮啦。其實我哋都係未試過咁樣去到參與一個嘅巡遊啦，可以同市民一齊去到分享我哋奧運嘅喜悅咁樣。
最深刻就係真係可以到迪士尼邊，呢個係我最難忘嘅經歷，因為我人生第一次，無論係非殘疾同埋殘疾都好啊，總之係中意跳舞嘅就盡情跳。
呢個抗疫一段咁長嘅時間，能夠嚟到迪士尼係夢寐以求。
希望大家多多支持。
大家都係想玩好個音樂，可以將唔同嘅背景、唔同嘅能力嘅朋友咧，可以組合埋一齊，等到每一個人咧可以發放佢自己嘅本來嘅顏色。
All that come to this happy place, welcome. And that includes those who are differently abled. And at Hong Kong Disneyland, we believe that inclusivity is incredibly important to our mission and to our community.
Okay, before we move on to Q&A, I'd like to say that with our beloved Disney characters and stories, our dedicated cast members, and an array of new guest offerings, the resort is well positioned to benefit from improving market conditions and continue to support the community when it's needed. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Here comes the Q&A section. Please submit your written questions in the chat box of the Zoom and send to all hosts and panelists only. And please raise no more than 3 questions for each media. 接落嚟係傳媒提問嘅環節。 有興趣提問嘅傳媒朋友，請向 Zoom 嘅 chat box 會議信息內以書面形式提交問題俾會議主持人，即係按 to all hosts and panelists only。請每間傳媒發問唔好超過3條問題啊。好 ，Okay, let's see which media would like to raise questions. The first question comes from commercial radio about park closure and how to attract tourists. The first question is, Chief Executive announced that the place of public entertainment can be reopened on April the 21st. Does the company have any plans to attract more visitors? The second question is, the Hong Kong Tourism Board estimated there will be 9.6 million tourists visiting Hong Kong in the second half year. How much can the company benefit from it? Okay, 而家有兩條問題係由商台嗰邊提問嘅，係第一條問題係關於特首就公布啦，呢個公眾娛樂場所咧就可以喺4月21號係開放翻嘅。我哋公司有乜嘢嘅計劃去吸引多啲嘅賓客咧？另外，香港旅遊發展局就預計響嚟緊下半年咧就有960萬名嘅旅客會到訪香港，咁當中咧，我哋可以係有幾多嘅受惠呢？ Okay, Michael, over to you.
Well, we certainly welcome the news today from the CE announcing that there's potential that we can open up on April 21st. I know that our guests are excited and our cast are excited. And to your question of do we have plans to attract more visitors? I think right now it's fair to assume that our initial opening will be primarily focused on local guests. And yes, that is the answer. We have, as I mentioned earlier, a record Magic Access base, and they are, excited fans and will be excited to come back. Certainly all of us are ready to go out and enjoy a little Disney Magic right now after the lockdown. But we do have a lot of exciting things, coming up. After April, it is certainly our hope that we're going to be able to launch our new nighttime spectacular Momentous later this year, as well as other staycation and promotional opportunities for local guests. But what we're really excited about is the news that came out from HKTB today, talking about 9.6 million tourists coming in from the second half of this year, and we are certainly extremely prepared for this, and very excited, frankly. I think when you look at what has happened really since the summer of 2019, all the way through the COVID pandemic right now, our resort has expanded quite a bit. We've enjoyed the opening of Moana, Ant-Man and the Wasp, of course, the Castle of Magical Dreams, the daytime show, and the upcoming nighttime spectacular Momentous. All of these things have not been seen before by tourists coming into Hong Kong. And so we have a huge product lineup waiting for our guests right now, not to mention our special events. The other thing that's exciting is that, especially for the GBA, we have not been able to fully exploit the benefit of the infrastructure improvements that have come to Hong Kong. The high-speed rail, for one, but not only that, the new roads and bridges that make access to Lantau much, much easier in the past. So I think we're well positioned for, not just April 21st, but to welcome the guests, the tourists, in the second half of this year.
Thank you, Michael. 我好簡單咁樣咧，係講一講係 Michael 正話嘅內容啦。咁佢正話咧就回答呢個商台提問嘅，就係話我哋係歡迎咧呢個公佈，就係話我哋有機會喺4月21號咧就係重開個樂園嘅。我哋相信我哋嘅賓客咧同埋演藝人員咧係將會非常之興奮。喺重開之後咧，我哋一定係會係重點係放喺本地嘅賓客嗰度先啦。我哋而家亦都有創紀錄嘅呢個年票嘅會員啦，我哋係非常之期待可以翻到嚟我哋嘅樂園嘅。我哋咧之後亦都係會去推出我哋夜間城堡匯演嚇。咁我哋呢個匯演咧，迪士尼星夢光影之旅咧，係應該大家都會覺得非常之吸引。咁我哋同時都會係推出宅度假嘅一啲推廣等等嘅。至於旅發局嗰邊咧，佢係話響下一個下半年咧會有960萬嘅訪港旅客。我哋其實已經準備就緒。響我哋呢個2019年之後咧，其實我哋推出嘅好多嘅項目咧，我哋嘅外地賓客其實都仲未有機會親身咁樣去體驗嘅嚇。咁而我哋亦都有好多嘅特備節目添。而喺大灣區方面咧，亦都有好多嘅基建項目咧，我哋其實咧係都未好好咁樣去善用嘅，我哋仲有好多嘅潛能可以去發揮嘅。咁所以可以講話，我哋其實咧已經係好準備好，就點樣去受惠於呢一連串嘅發展嘅。好，唔該晒。The second question comes from Cable TV about ticket price, ESS, and mainland medical team. The first question is whether there will be any increase in the ticket price, admission price. And then the second question is the resort is now losing money. Will you go to the Legislative Council to ask for additional funding? And do you think it is fair that the resort is not included in the ESS? And the third question is whether there has been any mainland medical delegation staying at any of the Disney hotels. Michael.
Okay, well, as we take a look at our business and we look at the ticket pricing, we have to take into consideration all of the market conditions out there right now, including the inflation, the cost of the inputs, et cetera. As you know, we did introduce a second tier earlier this year for ticket pricing, but right now we have no plans to have a ticket price increase. To the question about are we losing, or are we going to seek funding from LegCo? As I mentioned earlier, when we're open, we do okay. We're doing okay. Our guests are voting with their hearts and their wallet, and that's why we've enjoyed record high local attendance. And Hong Kong has a lot of options for people to do, and we're grateful that they've chosen us. Now, of course, when we're closed, it's been challenging, as I mentioned, but we are fortunate that we have a revolving facility of 2.1 billion that was provided by the Walt Disney Company, and I think based on our performance when we're open and the revolver, we don't have plans to seek additional government funding at this point. Now, as it relates to the mainland medical teams, I've mentioned that we've worked with the hospital authority and we've made ourselves available. We've been notified that they don't need us at this time, but I think as we heard today from the CE's presentation, that there's a move towards our resort being back open in April. As well as news from the Hong Kong TB that these rooms really need to be utilized for the tourists that'll be coming in the second half of the year. So thank you for that question.
OK， 唔該晒 Michael。正話 Michael 咧就講到咧就係話喺我哋嗰個門票價格嗰方面咧，我哋要考慮咧就係好多唔同嘅市場嘅環境包括通脹等，我哋先至會做個決定嘅。咁我哋喺去年嘅時候咧就已經係推出咗兩種票價㗎啦咁暫時係冇計劃去調整個門票價錢。咁喺會唔會去立法會去攞呢個額外嘅注資嗰度咧？其實我哋咧喺樂園係重開或者係開放營運嘅時候咧，咁我哋好多賓客咧都係願意嚟到我哋嘅樂園嗰度去玩啦，同埋消費嘅。咁而至於咧，我哋係喺嗰個即係嗰個資金上面咧，我哋係得到華特迪士尼公司咧有21億港元嘅周轉信貸嘅，咁所以暫時咧我哋係冇計劃要去攞政府嘅注資。咁去到第三個問題，關於內地醫護團隊我哋其實係有同醫管局嗰邊咧係有商討過嘅，咁我哋亦都有準備咧係可以係接待。咁但係我哋知道咧，暫時我哋係唔需要係提供呢個嘅住宿俾佢哋嘅。咁特首亦都有講到咧，我哋嘅樂園咧係好快有機會就重開，而旅發局咧亦都係話下半年咧我哋都有好多嘅旅客到香港嘅，咁所以我哋咧亦都會係將我哋嘅酒店房間咧都係會預備咧，就係點樣再次迎接我哋好多嘅賓客。咁now we have come to about unpaid leave and liquidity. With no staff being laid off, do staff members have to go on no pay leave, and how long if so? What are the employees' total payrolls now as compared to previous year? The press release stated to ensure adequate liquidity for continued operations, HKDI drew upon the revolver facility funded by the Walt Disney Company when needed, and will continue to closely monitor its operational liquidity as the resort addresses the challenges ahead. May I ask how much will that be considered adequate and over what period? Michael, over to you.
Right. So we have been committed to preserving jobs, and that's been a top priority. And we have made cost reductions in other areas so that we can do that. During fiscal 21, which the financial statements represent here, our cast was under unpaid leave for the entire year. And so for that, I think we are completely grateful to their commitment and the personal sacrifice that they made for that year. But as I mentioned during Q1, our business was open and we're doing well, and so that part was taking care of itself with the way the business was going. And so right now we don't have plans to go back to unpaid leave. Certainly the news today is very encouraging on that front too, with our reopening again in late April. Now, to your question on the payroll, those are answers or questions that we don't necessarily disclose within the financial information. But I think that you probably could surmise that, with our payroll, our headcount numbers being similar to last year, that our payroll was similar as in previous years. Now, how long will the revolver last? I think a lot of that depends on how many more closures there's going to be. Hopefully none, as we see ourselves in this recovery. As I mentioned, when we're open, I think we're doing well. And with the news today, I think we're very optimistic about the future and certainly our liquidity going forward. And not just April 21st, but the news from HKTB on the second half visitation, that's extremely encouraging. All Hong Kongers should be excited about that.
Thank you, Michael。Michael 正話咧就講到咧，我哋係以保就業咧作為我哋嗰個工作嘅重點嚟嘅。咁期間我哋亦都係有節省我哋嘅成本開支啦。咁響我哋21財政年度嗰度咧，我哋係推出呢個冇薪假期嘅，喺全年嗰度推出。咁亦都係感謝同埋係我哋好多嘅演藝人員嘅支持同埋犧牲啦嚇。咁響我哋樂園咧，響呢一個財政年度第一季度咧，其實喺開放嘅時候係真係做得個業績係唔錯嘅，咁所以咧我哋亦都係就喺呢個嘅財政年度咧係取消咗冇薪假期嘅，暫時亦都冇計劃再推出。今日咧我哋係聽到關於呢個有機會好快重開樂園嚇，同埋下半年嚇有比較多嘅訪港旅客到港呢啲消息咧，我哋覺得非常之鼓舞，令到我哋係對於個未來嚇呢一段時間咧嗰個業務咧係比較樂觀。咁我哋嗰個嘅演藝人員嘅人數咧就係呢2年都係相若嘅。至於係關於呢個周轉信貸嗰方面咧嚇，咁其實好視乎就係嗰個情況啦。咁如果當然我哋係要有呢個暫停關閉嘅機會嘅話咧，咁即係就會影響我哋係可以維持幾耐嘅。咁但係咧可以講翻就係話，我哋一路睇到咧就係我哋樂園開放嘅時候咧，我哋嘅業務真係做得唔錯。咁所以喺呢方面咧，我哋咧就係仍然係保持樂觀嚇。就亦都會密切係留意住我哋嗰個流動資金嘅情況嘅。OK， 唔該。We have got some questions from Sky Coast and also now TV, which are quite similar. Is about the new offerings like nighttime, spectacular, staycation offer, and whether we are optimistic towards the new fiscal year. The first question is like this. The government is planning to issue the consumption voucher. Will we have any corresponding promotions being rolled out? And are we going to attract more visitors by having staycation and other promotions as well? Can you tell us a little bit more about it? And also about the nighttime spectacular. Do you have any other attractions being launched apart from that? And the last question is, the government is saying they will relax the social distancing measures by phases. And will you feel optimistic about the current year's business result? Michael, over to you.
All right. Well, first of all, I could not be more excited about the debut of our brand new must-see nighttime spectacular Momentous. We have seen, I've seen some of the rehearsals of the show, and it is truly a must-see for everyone in Hong Kong and every tourist coming to Hong Kong. It is truly fantastic. As we look at the nighttime show, that's just one element of the park that's new. What we are finding, as I mentioned earlier, is that people are coming for their own reasons. They're celebrating their birthdays, romantic occasions. They're coming for their own reasons, just to hang out with friends that we're seeing. It's not just the new nighttime spectaculars. We have seasonal events year-round. This year, Halloween was, one of the most popular. Christmas, of course, is always popular, and we keep adding new things. One example is for the Christmas event this past year, we had the Hong Kong Philharmonic in front of the Castle of Magical Dreams. So it's always fresh and exciting here at Hong Kong Disneyland. I look at things like promotions and the staycation packages as always those things that are necessary to help entice the local guests as we come in. So certainly, we'll be looking into the conditions when we open up on what the right promotion is for the time. As it relates to things new, of course, we have the World of Frozen that's coming online as well, which is coming along well. To the question about, are we optimistic about this fiscal year? I already mentioned that we were very encouraged by our Q1 results. However, we've been closed for several months, and so that certainly will have an impact on this fiscal year. But I'm extremely optimistic after today's news, opening on late April, as well as close to 10 million tourists coming in the second half of the year. I'm extremely optimistic about this fiscal year once we're able to open up.
唔該晒 Michael。咁佢正話咧就講到咧就係話我哋呢個夜間城堡匯演咧係非常之吸引，所以咧係啲賓客一定要嚟睇嘅。咁而我哋好多賓客咧亦都會有其他唔同嘅理由過嚟我哋呢個嘅度假區同樂園去玩啦，例如慶祝生日等等。咁我哋亦都有好多嘅特別節目啦，例如係萬聖節呢個聖誕節嘅特別節目啊，好多新嘅一啲嘅娛樂體驗係帶俾我哋嘅賓客嘅。例如喺過去嘅呢一年嘅聖誕節啦，我哋就有香港管弦樂團咧，就喺我哋城堡嗰度係演出嘅。咁至於推廣優惠嗰度係一定唔少得啦嚇。咁我哋都會去考慮嘅。咁嚟緊仲有咩新嘢？咁就會係包括我哋魔雪奇緣嘅新園區啦。而家呢個園區嘅發展係良好嘅。咁所以可以話我哋都係對呢一年咧嗰個嘅業績咧係樂觀嘅嚇。咁我哋睇翻我哋響第一個季度係做得唔錯啦嚇。咁但係又即係可惜咧，就係都係要暫停關閉個園區係幾個月嘅。咁希望咧就係我哋響4月去重開嘅時候係好多賓客可以再翻到嚟我哋呢度啦。包括咧就係接近1000萬嘅訪港旅客咁樣嘅。好，唔該 ，Thank you, Michael. Here we've got questions which are a bit similar from Nikkei and also Oriental Daily about the relaxation of social distancing measures, boundary reopening and business outlook. The first question is the government has announced gradual relaxation of social distancing measures from April the 21st. Is it good news to HKDL? And Hong Kong Disneyland has recorded loss for 6 consecutive years. If Hong Kong's border remains closed to international visitors, what is the business outlook like for HKDL? And under the competition of Shanghai Disney Resort, and when Hong Kong has reopened the boundary later, do you expect you can attract how many international, mainland, and local guests then? Michael, over to you.
Well, certainly relaxing social distance measures, needs to be done prudently and in a safe and healthy way for our cast and our guests. I think the fact that social distancing measures are being looked at and relaxed right now is encouraging to Hong Kong Disneyland, because that means we'll be able to open safely, for our guests. And of course, that safety is a top priority for us right now. I think I've covered in previous questions about what our business outlook looks like right now, but I think it bears mentioning a little bit more context about when the park does, or when Hong Kong opens up for tourism to international markets again. We can't forget right now that before the social incidents of 2019, the resort was well on a path back to recovery and profitability, and in fact, it had achieved record attendance in critical international markets. But since that time, we have a lot of things happening right now. One, we've opened up, as I mentioned before, a lot of new attractions that international and mainland guests have not seen before. And so that is an attraction. Infrastructure that has been put in place to facilitate cross-border and inbound travel has not been fully taken advantage of or leveraged by the town. The high-speed rail, the new border crossings, and the tunnels on making Lantau even more accessible to the GBA. The other thing that's exciting in the coming years is we have the third runway, bringing in not just 50% more airline lift, but international tourists into Hong Kong as well. And they're landing right at our doorstep. And so we're very excited about the business outlook. And so as I look at our competitiveness, to our market right now, I think we offer a world-class premier theme park experience, and our guests tell us that. As I mentioned earlier, our guests are telling us that right now, our overall experience is 94%. And when they come here, they feel carefree, 97%. And so I think we are competitive. Our stories and our Disney characters and our cast and their guest service is really unparalleled. And so I think we are attractive. And then, of course, I mentioned what's coming in the future as it relates to new attractions, Momentous and the World of Frozen. So we're very excited about the future and our competitiveness.
Thank you, Michael. 正話 Michael 咧就有講到咧就係我哋咧而家嘅首要工作就係保障我哋嘅賓客啦，同埋我哋嘅演藝人員嘅安全同埋個健康嘅。咁我哋幾年前咧亦都係響國際旅客嗰方面咧係做得非常之好啦，係有破紀錄嘅入場人次嘅。咁喺呢幾年間咧，我哋有好多嘅設施咧推出咗之後咧，佢哋都未有機會去體驗嘅嚇。咁尤其是係喺我哋嗰個嘅基建項目嗰度嘅仲係有潛力可以發揮得得更加好，可以令到更加多嘅旅客咧可以嚟到我哋樂園同埋度假區去享受我哋嘅娛樂體驗嘅嚇。咁我哋亦都係喺大灣區同埋三跑各方面咧，都係有一啲好嘅發展咧。咁我哋應該都可以受惠。咁喺我哋度假區咧係有呢個國際級嘅娛樂體驗嘅。好多賓客都係嚟呢度玩咧係好開心。94%咧係認為佢哋整體個體驗係非常之好，同埋咧就係有97%咧就覺得可以好安心咁喺我哋嘅樂園嗰度去玩嘅。咁所以咧我哋而家有幾條嘅問題咧係最後嘅問題係嚟自我哋嘅傳媒朋友嘅嚇。There are a number of questions, which come from Hong Kong Economic Journal, 8 a.m. 7:30, as well as Ming Pao, about local attendance, MA membership extension, and also the layoff. The first question is, do you have any prediction as to how much attendance you will have this year, and how much spending the average per capita you have for the park, and is there any growth? And then for the MA membership, it has to be extended because of the temporary closure of the park. How much impact it has on our revenue, and how long it will be extended? And then the last question is, if we will have layoff in coming 1 year, if we don't have the ESS.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we're extremely encouraged by our business in the first quarter of this year. However, we've been closed, and that certainly has had an impact on our business this year. And with our opening that we just heard today from April 21st, and also new news from HKTB, we really don't have a crystal ball right now in terms of the makeup of those tourists, where they're coming from, their length of stay, or what their purpose of visit is. So we're going to have to do a little bit more work to understand, what this new information means to us. What I can tell you is that it certainly is encouraging as compared to being closed. When I look at the question of the spending, it is certainly encouraging right now to see what is happening right now with the spending that we see in the park when it's open, but also in our new online store. For those of you who haven't visited, please go to hongkongdisneyland.com and take a look at the merchandise items that you can purchase there. We've seen tremendous traffic and demand for our products, even when we're closed. And so we're very excited about the way our guests are spending. Additionally, on the food and beverage side, we have taken a lot of steps to improve our guest experience. If you were at the Christmas celebration, you may have seen the integration of our food and beverage with ensuring show times for the Christmas show, or even the new semi-buffet that was opened up at the Explorers Club in Mystic Point. So we have seen a lot of improvement from a guest spending standpoint. Now, as it relates to our Magic Access guests, and the program's really being suspended during the park closure, are we seeing any impact on the revenue? Well, certainly the obvious answer is when we're closed, revenue is challenging from a park standpoint. But we have seen a lot of success with our out of Burma. I mentioned the e-commerce earlier, but also the pop-up stores when we're closed, and so we have seen that. But when we look at our Magic Access base right now, I mean, we are at record high Magic Access, not just in terms of the overall number, but the number of times that they're visiting. And what we're seeing is that the Magic Access guests really value the program itself, and they're actually buying up from the lower tiers to the higher tiers. And so as I look at what's happening right now with the momentum we have with our wonderful Magic Access guests, is that the momentum is only only growing right now. And so going forward, we certainly see that the momentum to continue to increase.
好，唔該晒 Michael。咁佢正話咧就講到咧就係話我哋咧響第一個季度咧，響今年咧係個財政年度係做得唔錯嘅。咁我哋都好高興咧，聽到就係話我哋4月21號咧係有機會可以重開個樂園啦，亦都係聽到就係話香港旅發局嗰邊咧就係預計下半年咧講個旅客嘅數字嘅。咁我哋而家冇水晶球，唔知道下半年嗰啲旅客數字啦佢係嚟自邊咩地方係即係嚟香港嘅主要嘅目的啦嚇。咁但係我哋都相信呢啲對我哋嚟講都係一啲利好嘅消息。至於喺嗰個我哋嘅賓客消費嗰方面咧咁我哋當然啦就係用我哋咧出盡法寶咧咁樣去吸引佢哋嚟去消費嘅。咁當然咧亦都會包括咧就係話我哋會係有呢個嘅網上商品嘅購物啦， 有呢個期間限定店喺呢個市區嗰度咧係設立咗啦。另外我哋嘅餐飲咧亦都有好多唔同嘅種類嘅服務係提供嘅嚇，包括一啲半自助餐式嘅即係嗰個嘅飲食啊各方面嘅服務等等嘅嚇。咁喺我哋嗰個免票會員嗰方面啦嚇。當然啦，我哋暫停開放嘅時候，對我哋嗰個嘅收入一定係有影響。但係我哋都睇到咧，就係我哋喺年票嗰方面咧，就係嗰個人數係破紀錄啦，而佢哋入嚟樂園玩嘅次數亦都係破紀錄嘅嚇。
I'm sorry, Lana, I didn't answer the question fully. The final bit of the question was, with no employee support scheme laid out by the government, will we lay off cast members? As I mentioned before, we have not laid off cast in 2020. We have not laid off cast in 2021. And right now, certainly we don't have plans to lay off any cast. I think we are extremely excited by today's news that we'll be opening up in about 1 month's time, and that HKTB is forecasting tourists to come back to Hong Kong for the first time in several years. So I think we're very encouraged by the future, and if these things come to pass, certainly we won't be talking about layoffs anymore.
唔該晒 Michael，thank you Michael。Michael 正話咧就補充係答翻關於如果係冇呢個保就業計劃嘅支持下咧，咁我哋會唔會係裁員嘅？咁Michael 就講到咧，我哋喺20財政年度同21年財政年度咧，我哋都係冇裁過員嘅。咁而家亦都冇咁嘅計劃嚇。咁我哋都係而家係感到樂觀啦，因為係我哋大概喺1個月嘅時間度咧，我哋就可以重開樂園啦。另外咧，就喺下半年咧，我哋又好開心咁樣咧，可以係接待翻啲外國旅客嚟香港嘅。咁其實咧，我哋睇翻咧就係過去幾年咧，我哋係喺下半年咧先至係有機會第一次係重新係接待翻外國嘅旅客嘅嗰啲國際旅客嘅。咁我哋都好熱切期待嘅。Okay, thank you, Michael. And I think, that's also the end of today's annual business review. And thanks again for your participation. The official press release and photos will be uploaded to the press room of the Hong Kong Disneyland Resort website later. All press materials will also be sent to you, our media friends. And thank you, everyone. Have a magical day. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Michael.